Hello and welcome back to Story Time. I'm so glad you joined me. I'm finally, we're on the last not finally in a bad way, but finally, excitedly, we're at the last chapter of Friska. We get to find out, does Colin find her? Does he get chased away by the hop pickers? I don't know. She's in the caravan. He knows that. Is he going to get her back? It won't be too long before we find out. So we'll have our final chapter. And of course then we'll have one of our indescribable devotions. So get yourself comfy, snuggle down. We're just about to read chapter 8 of Friska, my friend. Okay then, let's start. Chapter 8. They got into the van and drove straight to the camp. Dad parked on the common and he and Colin walked towards the caravans. The light was beginning to fade and the hop pickers were coming from the yards. A large, strong-looking man was working on the last van. His arms were covered with grease and motor oil. But Dad was large and strong too, and he went up to him. "Evening, mate," he said pleasantly. "There seems to be a bit of a mix-up. I believe you've got my lad's dog in the trailer. Can we have a look? It's a black mongrel." The man looked Dad full in the face. "See that dog?" he said, pointing to the large Alsatian. "He's the only one we've got. If I let him off the chain, you'd best run for it. He doesn't like strangers." They stood facing each other. Colin felt Dad give him a little push, and he understood what that meant. He darted to the steps and called at the top of his voice, "Friska, it's Colin! Good dog! Friska, good dog!" Once again, there was a sudden explosion and the caravan seemed to rock. Friska was hurling herself against the door over and over again, barking and scratching with all her might. The Alsatian strained at its chain and barked furiously. A crowd of pickers came running. Then a woman's shrill voice cried, "Let the dog out, can't you, before she smashes all the china!" A boy ran forward and opened the door, and Friska sprang out with a force that made the crowd fall backwards. "Friska!" shouted Colin again, and she turned and leapt on him, knocking him down. Then Colin got up and laughed. Friska stood on her hind legs and put her paws on her master's shoulder, licked his face and wagged his tail. Another boy ran forward. "Meg," he called loudly, "Meg, come here." Colin glanced at him. He had dark curls half over his eyes. Colin recognised him. It was the younger boy that he'd seen before. Friska took not the slightest notice of that boy. Then she turned and growled at the big man who'd been looking on in silence. He suddenly chuckled. "Meg," he said. "Meg, indeed." He looked at the boy with the curls. "You wait till I get my hands on you, son." Colin's dad stepped forward. "Look, mate," he said, "we don't want the police in on this. There's another fortnight of picking and you won't want to shift yet. My lad's been breaking his heart over that dog. Maybe your boy thought she was lost, or maybe he didn't, but that's not a problem. You're not Friska, Elsie." "Thank you, Else. But that's not a problem. I'm willing to pay for the dog anyway. Take this and let's be going, and good luck to you." The man held out his hand and there was a rustle of money. "Cheers," he said, "and good luck to you and your lad." Dad and Colin walked back to the van with Friska bounding beside them. They drove through the village in silence because Colin was too happy to speak. Then, as they sped up the country road that led home, Colin said, "Dad, did you pay a lot to get her back?" "Yes," Dad said. "She's a good dog and worth it." He rumpled Colin's hair. "Taking you all round, you're not a bad lad either." "But she was ours already. Why should we pay for her?" "Well, I didn't want a fuss, not with that crowd. Besides, she got away, didn't she?" You must keep a close eye on her in future, Col, especially at hopping time." They were silent again. Now they could see the farm on the hill ahead of them, black against the last glow. Colin could see the warm light streaming from the kitchen window. He was longing to tell Dad all about his great day, but he thought he'd wait until they were all together. "Dad," he suddenly said, "it's like that vicar was talking about. That bit from the Bible, the second part of that verse. I always forget. It says, 'Don't be afraid, I have rescued you.'" "Huh?" "Oh yes," said Dad. "Jesus brought us back from bad things when he died for us. And I brought Friska back. Yes, Cal, I see what you mean." Then he frowned. "Listen, Colin, if your mum tells you off, remember you deserve it. You never ought to have gone off like that on your own, scaring her stiff." Indoors, Mum had meant to be cross, but she couldn't. She was too pleased to see Colin and Friska home and safe. And when she heard the whole story, she was proud of Colin being so brave. Colin was so tired, he only just managed to tell the story and eat a big plate of sausage and chips before he fell asleep. He was happy to go to bed because he knew when he woke up in the morning he'd find Friska in her basket by the cooker. He was up early next day and he and Friska ran out into the cool, misty morning. The grass was covered with spiders' webs. They went across the fields and chased about in the grass. Colin always took Friska for a run on Sunday mornings because she had to stay behind when they went to church. He especially wanted to go to church that morning because he wanted to tell the vicar all about his great adventure. So the moment the service was over, Colin rushed up to him. "Hey, Simon," he said, grabbing his sleeve, "you know Friska was lost? Well, I went and found her. I went all by myself all the way to Lee and I saw the caravans and—" "Just a moment," the vicar said. "This is too good to hurry. I'll go and shake hands with the people. You ask your mum if you can come over to the vicarage. Then you can tell me all about it." So Joy promised to tell Friska that Colin wouldn't be long. About 20 minutes later, Colin and the vicar sat down in the vicarage sitting room. Simon's wife brought some juice and biscuits, and she and their baby listened to the story too. And when Colin had finished, he said, "And you know, Simon, it was like the second bit of that verse. Oh, the bit I forget. We rescued Friska. Dad brought her back. He said it's like what Jesus did on the cross. Friska needed rescuing, so Dad paid the price to do it. We need rescuing from bad things too, don't we? And Jesus did that." "Yes, Colin, that's right," said Simon. "And when I was sitting behind the wall, I was scared and I said yes." The vicar blinked. "What do you mean?" "Well, when we get scared, God's there for us, isn't he? When we belong to him. That's what you said. God calls us by our name and we should say yes or no. And I said yes. It was as though God said, 'You belong to me.' And then I wasn't so scared anymore. Friska wasn't scared when I called her by name. She came bounding out and then she belonged to me again. But Dad had to pay for her and she cost him a lot." "Well done, Colin," said the vicar. "You've really understood. Don't be afraid. I have rescued you. What your dad said was right. You had to be brought back to Colin before you could belong to God. Just like Friska got into the wrong hands, so we fall into the hands of bad stuff and wrong things. We tell lies and are selfish and lose our tempers. Think about it, Colin. If lies and arguing went into heaven, it wouldn't be heaven any longer, would it? So we need to be rescued from all that bad stuff so we can belong to God." Colin looked thoughtful. "That's why Jesus came. He died on the cross and was punished instead of us for the wrong things we've done. He paid for them instead of us, so now we can be forgiven and belong to God again. So we're rescued and brought back from God," said Simon. Colin listened and nodded his head. "That's why people love Jesus so much, Simon, because he loved us enough to suffer so much." "You've got it." Colin stood up. "I must get back to Frisca. But yes, Simon, I do get it. Don't be afraid. I have rescued you. I have called you by name. Now you belong to me. I can say it to Frisca, and God has said it to me." He thought about it as he walked up the lane, scuffling through the golden leaves that had already started to fall. He felt very happy. He had shown Frisca how much he loved her. He'd walked all that way. He'd braved the big Alsatian dog and the hop pickers. He'd crept up to the caravan and called her by name. He'd rescued her. She'd been brought back, and he knew Frisca would always love him. But Jesus had done far more than Colin had done for his dog. Jesus had died on the cross and suffered a lot of pain to rescue Colin. "I love him too," thought Colin. "I'm glad I said yes. I'm glad I belong to God." There was a wild barking and Frisca came hurtling down the lane to meet him. "And," said Colin out loud, "I'm so very, very glad that Frisca, my friend, is home again." The end. Well, I kind of knew, I expected it to be a happy ending. I'm so glad it was as I hoped. Colin and Frisca reunited, but not only that, the amazing things was because Simon, the vicar, had been teaching Colin about God's rescuing and God calling him by name, that Colin decided to say yes to God, and that he chose to accept God as his rescuer. So how amazing. Colin, Frisca reunited, and Colin had found God. Wonderful story. So we're going to start a new story next time. But before we go for today, let's have one of our indescribable devotions. So today we are looking at the devotion called No Kidding. You are young, but do not let anyone treat you as if you were not important. Be an example to show the believers how they should live. Show them with your words, with the way you live, with your love, with your faith, and with your pure life. That's 1 Timothy 4, verse 12. You probably know that a kitten grows up to be a cat, a puppy grows up to be a dog, and a duckling grows up to be a duck. But did you know that a kit grows up to be a fox? A puggle grows up to be a platypus? A flapper becomes a swan? Or a fry grows up to be a fish? The real question, though, is what will you grow up to be? Will you become the person God designed you to be? God has given you special gifts and talents, things you can do that no one else can do in the same wonderful way. He wants you to use your gifts to love him and love others. Loving God and loving others are the 2 greatest commandments, and you can find them in Matthew 22, verses 37 to 40. The great news is you don't have to wait until you're all grown up to start using your gifts and follow God's word. You can start right now. But I'm just a kid, you might say. That's okay. Just check out what one kid in the Bible did. Josiah was only 8 years old when he became king and led the people back to God. And now you can read about Josiah in the Bible in 2 Kings, chapters 22 to 23. Now you don't have to be a king to do what's right and to lead people to God. You can be a teacher, a firefighter, the president, or a kid. Just love God with all your heart, soul, and mind, and love others, and you'll grow up doing great things. Be amazed. Kids can make a big difference in the world by doing little things, like comforting a friend, sharing what you have, or telling others about God. What can you do today to grow into the person God made you to be? Dear God, thank you for creating me uniquely and with a purpose. Help me see all the ways, big and small, I can show your love to others today. Well, thank you for joining me, and let's just finish with a prayer. So let's pray. Dear God, we thank you for that message in the story, that you have called us, you've rescued us, you've called us by name, and we can answer you. We can say yes or no. Thank you that we do have that option, Lord, and I pray that if we find ourselves in that situation, that we feel you're calling us, that every time the answer will be yes. So Lord, I pray, help us and help the ones listening now to hear your voice calling them. And I pray that they would say yes. And Lord, we do thank you that you have made us special and unique and given us wonderful talents that only we can perform in the special way. And Lord, we just pray that we would use our gifts and talents to teach people about you, to bring glory to you and to worship you. Thank you for this time together, God. Amen. So join me next time, next Monday, to find out what story we'll be reading next. Until then, have a lovely weekend. Join me on Sunday for Junior Church, same channel, CBC Junior Church channel. And there's all sorts of age groups of Junior Church. So join me then. Otherwise, I'll see you on Monday for more story time. Bye everyone. Take care.